Hello, Van. Good morning, good evening. Welcome back. Welcome to Cloud and DevOps Batch 57. So before I start the session, I would like to give a quick recap on what we have covered in yesterday's session. Without any delay, I'm gonna target only two things today. How do you create a server and how do you connect to the server that you have created? In Linux, there are two ways that you can connect, one or the other way. I'm gonna show you both. And yeah, so what all softwares are needed are also something I'm going to quickly walk you through. And also yesterday we have discussed what is a zone, availability zone. Availability zone is also referred as a zone. What is a region and what is a local zone and what is a wavelength zone? Who uses wavelength zone? Who uses local zones? And what is the need of your local zone? We have very fair understanding. And we also know what is the reason between region versus availability zone. We have extensively discussed. Also, if you want to create a fault tolerant infrastructure, for example, in case if your zone fails, how are you going to ensure your workloads or your applications would run seamlessly? How can you create an infrastructure that is tolerant to one zone failure? How can you create an infrastructure that is tolerant to two zone failures? It's all depends on the rate of return of investment. How much money you are making from the company, from the business, versus how much you are ready to invest. If yours is a tier one application or it's a mainstream application of your company whose revenue is directly proportional to the availability of the application, then definitely you are going to build an application that is tolerant to minimum two zones or three zones. In case if it is a tier one application, you want to make sure that the application works even in case of the entire region failure, then you're going to build the same setup on two different regions and you're going to route the traffic between the two different regions. How are we going to do that? We'll see that in the training sessions. All right. Also, we have seen AWS has its presence across multiple zones, almost the 33 physical regions Amazon has its presence. If you come here and if you look at this AWS global infrastructure map, you can see Amazon has officially available on 33 regions, and Amazon has almost 105 availability zones. That means each and every zone will have some certain number of zones. Yesterday I got a lot of questions from people why India has only 3 zones in Mumbai and Hyderabad, why in North Virginia they have 6 availability zones. It's purely based on how available they want, how much in business they are having. So they're not going to invest just for the heck of it, right? Obviously they have business and that's why they have created such a big infrastructure in North Virginia. And also here in India, we have Hyderabad, which is recently started. And even I also heard that Amazon is also planning to construct one more region in India. Okay, how many regions in a country we have, how many zones that we have is purely it's purely based on the business. Okay, and wherever you see orange, that means it is in the process of they're in the phase of constructing and they're in the phase of rolling out. And I also mentioned that if you want to try, if Amazon want to release any new feature or any feature, Amazon first tries out or Amazon first rolls out in North Virginia. North Virginia is one of the most famous region, okay, and it's one of the biggest region where they have huge capacity. And I also yesterday I got one question. Even Amazon also maintains data center. What if lot of customers are requesting lot of infrastructure? How Amazon is going to manage? So they are going to manage by forecasting the customer needs. They have huge amount of infrastructure. Still, Amazon also experiences the capacity demands. Okay, couple of months back, we raised a request to in one of the zone in one of the zone in North Virginia. We need to have 100 servers. We are not able to provision. And our manager or the product manager has mentioned that they got an email from Amazon saying that uh, if you want to create your infrastructure in North Virginia Zone 1A, don't use Zone 1A, use Zone 1B or Zone 1C. In Zone 1A, we are experiencing capacity issues. Yes, nothing is perfect. Even everyone experiences the capacity issues. And in order to overcome that, there is a concept in AWS called as a capacity reservation. That means upfront itself, you can say Amazon, during this time to this time, I am going to use these many servers. Okay. And those many servers would be blocked for you. And that is called as a capacity reservation. Okay. So in this, if any capacity reservation is there, whether you use the servers or not, you will be billed. No, but you didn't talk anything about billing, how billing works in AWS, right? We're going to talk more about billing only today. It's going to be very interesting. Okay, so that is something we have discussed yesterday. And also we clearly know the difference between availability zone, region. Okay, and we also discussed that in AWS everything is a service. You want to create a service, okay, you want to create a server, you need to consume a service. You want to create a service, you need to create you want to create a server, you need to consume a service. You want to create a disk, you need to use a service. You want to create a database, you need to consume a service. You want to run a Java based application or a Node based application or a Python based application, definitely you need to have a you need to consume a service. Amazon offers software as a service, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service. So based on the type of service that you use, it falls under the category. Okay, if you don't want to maintain the infrastructure, if you directly want to go with platform where you want to run platform like Java based platform or Python based platform, you can go with the EBS. EBS is a Elastic Beanstalk, which is a platform as a service, which Amazon offers platform. You just run your services on the top of it. But I want to create a server because Linux is something that's pretty much important to me. As a part of that, I would like to learn Linux on the top of a live server. And for that, I would like to create a server. And for that, I'm going to use Elastic Cloud Compute. And also we discussed yesterday in AWS, if you want to create a server and install an operating system, everything completes in less than 1 second. How is another important point that we would like to talk. Okay, so I would like to discuss. So before even I proceed, okay, I would like to talk a couple of things. Okay, authentication in Linux. Okay, systems. Okay, let's talk about it. What do you mean by authentication? Why we need authentication? Anyone? What is authentication? Why you need authentication? Let's talk about it. What is authentication? Why we need authentication? Let's try to understand that. Anyone who is interested. So for example, you are having a computer just before you join the session. What exactly you have done? You went to the computer, right? You went to the computer and you entered what is the username and password. And then the moment you entered the username and password and you were able to log into your computer, and then you have joined the meeting with the meeting link that was shared with you, and then you have used, right? So why you need authentication? Anyone? I could see Naresh and Naresh. Why do you need authentication? First of all, let's talk about it. Before even we understand how many authentication modes are there, which one are we gonna use, but let's try to understand why you need authentication. Anyone? I have given mute option, unmute option to anyone who's raised their hand.
So
Anyone?
basically, it's a kind of protocol that every app follows to know who is actually logging in, whether it's illegal or
Exactly.
illegal.
Exactly. That means why a company gives you an identity card before you enter into an office? To consider, yeah, you are the employee, right? Not everyone can enter into the office, right? Only the employees who are associated with that company. That means to prove his identity. Okay, and for the to prove the identity, we use authentication. Authentication is a mechanism to check whether who you are. Okay, so who you are when you say who you are. Okay, for example, if you say Manoj, and anyone who says Manoj cannot be Manoj, right? You need to prove your identity. If you're a human, you use your Aadhaar card, right? Or you use a driving license. Similarly, for machines also, a machine can also be used by multiple people. So for example, I have my computer. I don't want others to access it. So I only want to allow if he is Manoj. And for that, we'll create a username called as Manoj, and Manoj creates a password. Whenever Manoj wants to enter, he'll enter Manoj and he'll enter his password. Then only he can authenticate. So Manoj is proving whoever is entering into the server is Manoj. He's proving with the help of username and password, right? Agree? Okay. All right. Since this is your computer, let's talk about it. This is a computer. This is just a computer and this is my computer. And if you want to enter into this computer, what you do, you just enter a username and a password, you will enter into it. Agree? And this is your home. And if you want to enter into this, or if you want to sign into this computer, sign in is the right word. You'll enter the username and password. Boom, you'll enter into this. Okay, perfect. Let's assume this is a data center. Let's assume this is a data center. Let's assume this is a data center. In the data center, we are having a Windows-based machine or a Windows server. Okay. Now, this is based out of North Virginia or anywhere in Mumbai or anywhere not data center in North Virginia. Now, you are from your home. This is your home network or home. How can you connect to this machine? Anyone? 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 How can you
Yeah.
access a server which is available in a data center in North Virginia? Anyone?
Through
You got my question?
we might be have some URLs, and from that or the POT whatever this sorry we need a URL where we need to enter credential that we can go there. Just like Amazon, I am having my data center on Amazon North Virginia.
Not really URL. URL is for the purpose of browser. We use IP address. We use the server identity. Agree?
Yeah, server IP address.
Agree. So you have the username and password, and you have the IP address. IP address is a internet protocol address, just like how humans we have names who will be called. Similarly, each and every machine or if any computer wants to talk to other computer, they communicate using the common protocol, our internet protocol, using an internet protocol address. Okay, we'll talk more about it when the networking comes up. So this has an IP address. Let's assume the IP address looks like this, or let's say the name of the server is okay abc.cc.com, and this is the name of the server. Let's assume. And if you want to access this server, how are you going to access? This is the identity of the server. Anyone from your computer? I'm not talking about Linux. I'm just only talking about Windows. You got my point. If it is just a computer where you are sitting in front of the computer, you can connect. But how about a Windows server which is available in a North Virginia data center, which is oceans away? Anyone? Anyone?
RDP.
Exactly. So we use a software called as RDP. Okay. In Windows, RDP stands for Remote Desktop Protocol. Okay. Protocol is nothing but set of rules to make something happen. Okay. So we use something called as Remote Desktop Protocol. Okay, remote desktop protocol is just a client software. Okay, don't think too much what exactly this is and all. It's a client-based software. What is a client-based software? A software which would be installed on the top of your computer is called as a client-based computer. A server which serves hundreds of people. A client is you. Okay, a client computer is nothing but your computer. A client software is nothing but a software which you install on your computer. Softwares are of two types: client-based software and server-based software. Okay, now here. Okay, now you need to understand one point very clearly. If you want to connect to the Windows server, you need to install a Windows-based client. So you are going to install a software called as RDP. Okay, and then what you do, you type, for example, on my Windows computer, I'll type RDP. Okay, I got something called as remote desktop connection. Okay, I'll enter the password abc.cc.com. This is not a real domain, obviously. So what you would get, it asks me enter the username as well. For example, I would say Manoj. Okay, I would say Manoj. Okay, perfect. Now what I would say, I just need to say connect. Now it asks me enter the password if it is resolved. Now can you see this? It is connecting to abc.cc.com. And then the moment if it is valid, and once you enter the password, then if within the system, if the Manoj's password is password, whatever the password that you have entered is correct, then you would be connected to the server which is available in the North Virginia. Are you clear? Guys, are you clear on this? So this is how authentication in Windows works. But what if it is a Linux server? How are you going to connect to that? So for Linux also, are you going to use RDP? No. Okay. So for this, you're going to use another software called as SSH. Okay. SSH stands for Secure Shell. Okay, so you connect to Windows machines using RDP. Okay, you connect use RDP to connect to Windows-based machines. SSH to connect to Linux-based machines. Hope we are clear on this. Okay, perfect. So here RDP is the client-based software that you need to install. Similarly, SSH client is also a client-based software that you need to install. A client is nothing but a software that you are going to install. Client-based software is something that you are going to install on your computer. So again, in this SSH client, okay, we are going to install, and using this client, we are going to connect. All right. So if you want to connect, okay, to a Linux-based server, you need to install an SSH client. Okay. Again, there are a lot of versions, a lot of editions of SSH clients are available. So if you are using Windows, okay, if you are using Windows, then okay, if you are using Windows, you can install Putty. Putty is a SSH client-based software, or we can also install Git Bash. Okay, anything is fine. Okay, but Manu, what if I'm not using Linux? I mean, I'm not using, my computer is not Windows based. I'm using a MacBook or a Linux. What if you're using Linux or Mac, you don't have to install anything. So you'll get a default terminal. Use the default terminal. Okay, just type in your search the default terminal. You just choose whatever the default terminal that comes. For all the Linux and Windows based machines, you'll get a default SSH based terminal that you will be using it. All right. So that's it. So let me try to show you that. So first we are going to install SSH client on the top of our computer. All right. So let me try to go. And particularly if you are dealing with the Linux based machines, okay, we don't use, okay, Linux offers two ways of authentication. Let's try to talk about that. Linux offers two modes, two types of authentication. Okay, and I don't have to tell the passwordless authentication that I'm teaching because it's not really used anywhere. But if you want to start your career in the space of cloud and DevOps, passwordless authentication keys is a concept that you should know must. Okay, so there are two varieties of authentication that Linux exclusively offers. One type of authentication, okay, one type of authentication is passwordless authentication, okay, which you already know, password-based authentication. Okay, when I say password-based authentication, you're going to enter a username and password, and using the username and password, you will connect. And another thing is passwordless authentication. That means you don't need a password. Instead, this is also called as a key-based authentication. What is this key-based authentication? Okay, so this is something I'm interested about, and this is not at all recommended. In reality, in when you join any company, this is not a recommended practice. And you don't see anywhere you connect to servers using this passwordless authentication. But whenever you use any Linux based applications or whenever you use Linux based appliances, definitely you should know what is a key based authentication. So recently, I think a month or 2 months back, an engineer with 4 years of experience has joined in my team. Once she joined the team, I have asked, hey, can you give me the key? Okay, so immediately she gave her private key. What is a private key? Private key is like a password. She don't know whether to share the public key or private key. The moment she shared me the private key, I understood she really don't know much, or she came using a fake experience. So whatever you do, you need to do with highest perfection, even if you fake something. That's what I believe in. But if you don't know what is a key-based authentication, even after working for, if you say that you worked for 32 years, sorry, 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, if you don't know this concept, you will be in soup. So I highly recommend to understand this passwordless authentication, even though you don't work, even though you don't use much in the organization. This is not much recommended password. This is the most recommended approach. Okay, this is the recommended password-based, because in organization you use keys, because in the organization you use username and password, right? But you don't use any keys or anything. So are you using key whenever you want to enter into the computer? No, right? So yeah, this is not much recommended. This is the recommended approach. Okay, the below is not a recommended approach, but still I would like to walk you through because that is something quite important. So password based authentication, I don't have to explain much. It is pretty straightforward. But if you want to talk about passwordless authentication, when I say passwordless, that means I'm talking about key pair based authentication. Okay, so key pair based authentication. So when I say key based authentication, okay, it's to be precise, key pair based authentication. It's also called as SSH key pair. Okay, and this works with, when I say SSH key pair, it will be having two things: public key plus private key. This is must. Okay, if you don't understand, that's totally fine. Ask me one more time. Okay, so public key and private key. This is very, very, very important. Let me try to explain it. So in Linux based world, okay, typically what we do is we generate a key pair, and using that we're going to authenticate. For example, I'll give you a nice example. Okay, so there is a lock. For example, let's go and try to bring a lock example. Lock. So for example, there is a lock. Come here and try to lock the image. Oh, it's pretty big. You're having a lock. And you locked it. And for the for locking, you need to have a keys image, right? Keys. All right. Now, if you want to open this lock, you should have this key. Agree or not? All right. So for example, this is your home. Okay. And for your home, you have locked it with this particular key. This is your home and you locked your home. Okay. The main gate of your home, you locked it with this particular lock. Agree. And if you want to open this, okay, if you want to open this, you need to have this key. Okay. That means anyone who visits your home can see can see what is the lock that you're using. Okay, okay, and anyone who comes to your home, can they see this key? What if this key is only with me? I can open it. Okay, what if someone has seen this similar key? What if they have duplicated the key? Can they open this or not? Agree? Yes? No. Now what if someone has, okay, tried to open this key with some key? Okay, for example, there is another key. Okay. So let me try to take this. So this is a lock and this is a key. What if someone tries to open the same lock with this key? Will it work or not? Anyone? If the lock for this key is this, if you want to unlock this, you should have this key. If you attempt to use this, will it work or not? Obviously no. I could see a couple of hands raised. Let me give the mute and unmute option.
No, it won't work.
How many of you say will it work? How many? I want to explain very, very raw on this concept. People who are coming from the Linux background, they might think simple, but I want to be very raw on this. I have seen a lot of people who feel this as a very complicated concept, particularly who want to learn, who are very much serious about job. Okay. So if in interview by mistake, if they ask you something that related to public and private key, if you don't answer this question, they can easily identify that you don't know anything in Linux. Okay. So this lock is locked by this particular key. And if you want to unlock this, you should only use this key. And if you want to lock this, you should only use this. What if I try to lock this? Obviously it won't fit. What if you try to lock? It won't work. What if you try to unlock? It won't work. That means if you want to unlock or lock, this is the key. And in this piece, okay, anyone who comes to your home can see what is the lock that you're using. Either it can be Godrej lock, either it can be any lock. Anyone can see. If someone comes and see the lock, there is no harm because they can't do anything. But what if they see your lock? What if they see what is the pattern of the key? What if they try to duplicate it? Can they open it? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they can
Just by
open it.
looking at these two pieces, which is sensitive, which is private, which is public, as per you, which is a sensitive information, which is not a sensitive information out of these two? Can anyone explain me this?
A public key is the lock, private key is the key.
Okay. How you said that?
Because the public keys we are visible, right? We can visible that the lock we can visible, but the
Yes.
private key we can't visible that.
Yes, we cannot see that, right? So
Yeah.
here, public key is all, the lock is a public key. Okay, anyone can see, but out of this, which is private, this key is a private, right? So that's the reason we call it the private key, which is sensitive. Okay, that means when you join any organization, okay, in order to enroll your access, certain applications they'll ask you generate a key pair and give me the key. At that time, to those engineers, which key should you give, public key or private key?
Public key.
Exactly. Private key is like a password. You should never ever share or expose. Okay. So first we're gonna generate a key pair. You can generate it by using a command, or from the AWS console also we can generate. Okay. Now what we're gonna do is, okay, we'll create a Linux server. Okay, we'll create a Linux server and we'll generate a key pair saying that, okay, B57, okay, dot pub b57.pem. Okay, so pub is a public key, pem is a private key. So we're gonna generate two files. Okay, and then while creating the server itself, we'll use a lock. Okay, we'll use a lock. That means if you wanna connect to this server, okay, if you wanna authenticate to the server, you need to use this key only. Okay, so, and this is something which will be there on your computer, because this is something you will be using to connect to the server, right? So this is something which will be on your computer or in a place which cannot be accessed by others. It should be very clear on this concept. Okay, even though we are not going to use it anymore, okay, this will be the first and last day of our keys usage, but still I want to make sure I get it covered. Okay, so let me try to make it. Okay, so here the public key is something which you would be using here, and private key is something you will be placing on your computer. I think we are clear on this, right, guys? Anyone who is having confusion on it? All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I would like to create a server. So Vedant, can you please explain what is Scrum and a Scrum Master as well? So that is completely non-technical. We'll talk about that. So we're going to talk about agile methodology, what is Scrum, what is Kanban, who is a product owner, who is a product manager, who is a Scrum Master. Everything we're going to talk when a situation comes. But right now we are talking about technology, Vedant. At this point of time, I do not want to talk about that. Okay, because I have a session of 1 hour just to talk about how process management, IT management, and work management happens in your company. Okay, so that's something I would like to target in a separate 1 hour session. I don't want to talk about that right now. Okay, so yeah, thank you. So what I'm going to do today, my goal is very simple. I would like to create a server. Okay, so let's try to create a server. Here will be the specifications. So I would like to create a server. So today's goal is very, very simple. Today's goal is very simple. All right. Today's goal is quite simple. Today's agenda. Create an AWS server. With CentOS 7. Okay, here CentOS is a clone of Red Hat. Why we are using Red Hat or CentOS? Because that is something which is widely used in the enterprise. So we would like to use which pretty much close to what is being used in the organizations. Why not Red Hat? Okay, I have a lot of scripts and automation that were raised keeping the CentOS in. All right, and second important thing I want to talk about is, okay, I would like to connect. Right, using passwordless. Okay. And I also want to talk about instance types. So typically in the organizations, how you get a request. Okay. So usually application team, okay, because end of the day, you create servers to run applications. Applications are managed by application team, right? So typically you get the request from the developers or the application team. You got a request from the application team saying that they want to run some workload. That means they want to run some application, then they requested you a server. Okay, so application team approached you saying that we would like to create a server. We need a Linux server team. Okay, they came to you saying that I want to create a Linux server. Then immediately you'll ask, okay, which flavor of Linux? That question you need to ask. Because in Linux, there are thousands of varieties, right? Which flavor and version is very much important. Okay, why do we need to ask that? Because you cannot go and say, I want to install Linux. You need to give an input, right? There are a lot of offerings in Linux. Red Hat, Ubuntu, Kali, BusyBox, a lot of offerings are there. You need to understand which flavor, distribution, brand, anything is fine. So when you attend any interview, they'll ask you what all flavors of Linux are you aware of. Okay, you can say that I'm well aware of Linux and Red Hat and Red Hat CentOS. Both of them are same, Red Hat and Ubuntu based. Okay, so you can say that. And once you know this information, okay, you need to get this information. This is information that will be given by the application team. Okay, fine. Next, the next question should be, okay, what is a requirement? Okay, what is a CPU and memory requirement? You will ask them, what is the CPU and memory requirement? What is the CPU and memory requirement? Okay, then they will mention that. Okay, application team has to give that. And again, you also need to ask, okay, is your application CPU intense to or memory intense to? Okay, so see, this is how I take. For example, if I'm taking anyone's interview, if I ask them, how do you create a server? If you say that I'll go to the AWS, I'll sign into the console, I'll select the EC2 service and I'll click on create server and I'll select the CentOS and it'll create the image and it'll give the IP address to him. This is the immature answer. Okay, anyone can easily understand that that we don't know anything. We just learned somewhere in the internet and we are coming to play in their infrastructure. No one will give an opportunity. You should answer in a little diplomatic way. Okay, so if I get a request, server provisioning request, I'll first check what flavor and what version of Linux are they expecting. I'll check what is the CPU and memory requirement from them. I'll also ask them, is their application CPU intensive or memory intensive or GPU intensive? For example, if you take gaming applications, they are high CPU utilized applications. For example, there are certain applications which needs high memory. Okay, for example, you are working for any racing company, okay, or any broadcasting company. For them, graphical processing units or the graphic cards workloads are really high. So you need to ask them, okay, what type of workloads is your application so that I can give you the best instance. Okay, best type of instance. You need to ask them. Next, what is the storage requirement? And you also need to ask, how long are you going to run this server? End of the day, everything is costing. For example, application team's manager would be different. Infrastructure team, where you are a part of, your team manager would be different. And your manager is responsible for the billings that falls under his team or under his vertical. So you randomly won't create servers and give it to anyone. So you need to mention them, okay, this is going to cost you this much. Okay, you need to ask them, how long are you going to run this application? Okay, and based on this answer, okay, it's going to cost you this much. And your manager has to approve. Okay, and if you answer like this, okay, people understand, okay, this guy really worked. Okay, but the moment you say I'll go to the AWS console, I'll create server and create a server and give it to the customer, that's a blunder. Okay, you should never ever answer that way. So the answer should be this way. Okay, always try to give in a very described way. You need to explain the process. Okay, you can learn the technology, but at the same time you also need to know the process. If you don't know the process, it will be tough for them to maintain, right? So this is how you need to answer. Okay, so let's try to go ahead and try to create a server. So when I'm creating a server, okay, I'm gonna use CentOS. Okay, and AWS offers certain amount of CPU and memory as a part of the free tier, which we are going to use. And while coming up, I'm gonna use, okay, a public key and a private key. One second, guys. Okay. Okay, I will try to create a lock. And then I'll try to create a key, and then using that, we should be able to connect. Okay, let's try to see. All right, guys. So yeah, let's see. And Manoj, you mentioned that how long are you going to run the application? And after you asked that, you said that it's gonna cost you this much. How do I come to know? Who's gonna mention that? Okay, we use a calculator in AWS called as AWS Billing Calculator, which is an official application from AWS. But still, it is not accurate. Whatever the billing that it shows here is generic, and it might be varying from customer to customer. If you are a big shot, okay, Amazon offers you huge discounts to you. For example, if you commit them, we are going to use your cloud. How Amazon also offers you discount, how important to them as well. So whatever the information that you see here is purely, it's going to be estimate. Okay, this is also we are gonna see very soon. But for now, the goal for today is I would like to create a server. All right, so I hope every one of you have created their AWS accounts. I got an update from a lot of people saying that they have successfully created their AWS accounts and they're able to access their AWS account. There is a very good sign of progress. I want to thank each and everyone for paying the highest possible attention to do the tasks or the assignments on a day-to-day basis. Please ensure you keep up the same pace. Okay, and it's not just about you practiced whatever I said. You are coming back to me saying that something is not working. That is something I'm very much keen and interested about. Okay, so I always like people, if something doesn't work, rather than feeling inferior, coming back to us or coming back to the trainer and asking the questions is a very great approach. I want to thank each and everyone for that. Okay, now yeah, I clicked on sign in. I have entered my username, which is nothing but the root user email address, which is also nothing but the same email address which was used by you to create the AWS account. So click on it. Okay, so now you can click on sign in. I already entered the password and saved it. All right, perfect. Now I would like to create a service. Okay, so for now, I would like to create a service, or I would like to create a server in North California, which is also called as a US West one. So typically in interviews, they'll ask you, okay, what type of application are you using? In which regions are you using in AWS? Who decided which region to be used in your organization? These questions will be asked. And do not say, I have created my infrastructure in North California, North Virginia, Ohio, no, Mumbai, Australia. Don't say that, okay? People don't believe. You need to say, okay, ours is an SaaS based company, or ours is an e-commerce based company, or ours is a banking based company, where we have provisioned our infrastructure in east and west part of the United States, or we have created our infrastructure in US West and US East. Okay, you can also say our infrastructure is on North California and North Virginia. Okay, don't say that randomly. All right, and who decided that? Our team has decided that. Well, I think my team got better discounts, and AWS, we work very closely with AWS as per our business workloads and as per our customer base. Okay, based on the data, Amazon has suggested us to use North Virginia and US East, US West, because majority of our customers are nearby, or majority of my customer base or our business is around that. So that's the reason AWS has suggested that. That should be your answer. And don't say that I don't know. Since the time it's there, it's already there. So this should be your answer. Okay, so majority of the times, 99% of the times, you won't have an answer why your company has selected the North Virginia or North California. But people don't like, or interviews don't like, when you say I don't know, it's there from the time. Okay, that shows how curious you are to learn. Okay, try to curate an answer saying that our customer base is based out of North Virginia and North California, And based on the data and analysis from AWS team, AWS has suggested us to create our infrastructure or host our infrastructure in North California and North Virginia. That's the reason our business has decided. This is how you need to answer. Okay. And also we are having huge capacity requests in Amazon, which only North Virginia can fulfill. That's how you need to answer. All right, guys, make sense? All right. And whatever I'm talking, okay, every one of you, whatever I'm talking, every one of you, listen please carefully. We are getting, you're gonna get a running notes. Whatever we are discussing, we'll also share running notes. Okay. So that I'm gonna publish starting from today. Okay, we're gonna have notes, class notes. Okay. I need to sign in. Okay. I think I need to enter the OTP. All right. So, so here in the same space, okay, you should be able to see notes column where I'm going to publish the notes on a day-to-day basis. Okay, so here we are going to create a running notes, and where you can find whatever the questions I'm asking, whatever the discussion that's happening, everything will also be shared. Okay, so that rather than just depending on the video, you can also go through the notes. All right, guys. And also my sincere request, please do not write notes, or please do not practice things in parallel, because if you do so, whatever I'm teaching, you would lose track. So we can do best when we do one at a time. My request is do not take notes or deviate or access mobile when you are dealing. And the only reason, and that's also the reason we always encourage you to join from a laptop, because mobile, you'll get a lot of notification. You'll easily get distracted. All right. So yeah. So as promised, I clearly mentioned yesterday in Amazon, you can create a server in less than 1 minute. How that's possible? Let's do that. And I have selected North California. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'll try to go in the search, just like you Google search. In the top left corner, we have a search bar. Okay. So here you have a search bar, and this is where you need to search whatever the service that you want to search. Now what I would like to do, I would like to search, okay, for a service called as EC2. EC2 stands for Elastic Cloud Compute, which is infrastructure as a service offering from AWS, which helps you to create the servers on cloud. Okay, and you can clearly see virtual servers in the cloud. I would like to create a server. Click on it. And whenever, why is the lock called public key and just lock? So Vedant has asked me a question. Why is the lock called as public key rather lock? That is just an example I have given. Okay, because this is a complex topic. To give you an example to understand which is private, which is public, I have coined these terms. Okay, his question is, if it is a public key, why are you using a lock? Why are you using a lock? So Vedant, it's just for illustration I have used this. Okay, fundamentally you don't download anything like this. Those two are files. One of the file will be public file and another file is a private key. Okay, to make sure you understand things correctly, I have illustrated this example. Vedant, answers your question? Right. Sure, Raja, I'm going to do that at the end of the class. Can you list out the services that we're going to use? Raja, I'm going to do that at the end of the session. And key pair based authentication is recommended and not password based, right? No, key pair based authentication is not recommended at enterprise, and you don't use. For example, when you work for any company, have you ever used key to connect to any application? So how are you entering your computer? How are you authenticating your Windows computer in your organization? So it's always password based. Okay, key based is also secure, but with the latest security standards, key based is one of the easily compromised entity. So it's always recommended to go with the username and password. All right, I have created a free tier account. How to see the free tier credits available? How much balance is there for the usage? Okay, I'm going to talk about that. Okay, so I'm going to talk about that soon. All right. So why should we expose even the public key? It not really, you don't have to expose. Okay. I mean to say, I don't even mean to expose. I mean to say it is not sensitive. When I say sensitive, when you are exposing it, you lose something. Public key, when you expose, there is no harm. Okay. So yeah, what is the use of public key of placing it on a server? It's just like a lock to your home. Okay. When you are having a lock, you can open it using an associated key. All right. So yeah, Vedant, your question of what is Scrum, what is a Scrum Master, what is Agile, we're going to talk about in detail. I have an hour and a half session on it. We'll talk about that. All right, guys, if anyone want to talk, they can raise their hand. We can give an option to talk, but I have addressed all the questions. Yes, Vedant, go ahead.
The public key is like a read access.
We'll see that. Don't go there, okay? We'll see that with an example, then you'll understand it better. All right, Vedant?
Okay.
Yeah, but fundamentally you understood what the concept, right? Whatever I have demonstrated.
Yeah, the lock and private key is the access.
That's it. That's more than enough. Okay, when you see practical, you'll understand. All right, so let's get started, guys. So we know EC2 is the service, which is an infrastructure as a service offering, okay, in the category of servers. If you want to host your applications on the top of servers, you create servers on AWS Cloud by using a service called as EC2. EC2 stands for Elastic Cloud Compute. Let's go and try to create a server. Okay, so here, if you want to know how many zones it offers, okay, you can clearly come ahead and seek it here. Okay, it says US host 1B and US host 1C. Okay, for some reason, the other zone is not offering. If you want to enable the additional zone, you can come here and you can say, I want to enable this zone and I want to enable this zone. All right, so yeah. Now what I want to do is I would like to launch an instance. When you say launch an instance, that means I'm asking you to create an instance. Now, what I would like to do, okay, let me try to show you. In the left window, you have an option called as instances, right? Now you can click on the instances, and then in the right top, you have an option called as a launch instances, and this is what I'm referring, launch instances. Okay, so all you need to do is, maybe I'll use, okay, so what I'm gonna do is I would like to launch an instance. Now, each and every instance that you create should have a name, right? Now, whenever you create any instance, that should make some sense. Okay, so naming standard is very important when you create a server. Okay, let me also talk about that. Okay, naming standard is very much important. Okay, what is the naming standard that you're following in your organization? Okay, naming standard. Okay, it's not just like, okay, I'm creating a server, test server, random server, okay, sandbox. No, you should not name it. So any name you take should have, okay, what is this for, what this is for, okay, and what this is for, what app are we running, plus, okay, whether it is a test server or a dev server. Okay, these three entities you should be having. Okay, just by looking at the server, I should understand, oh, this is the Linux machine, oh, this is containing the what's this XYZ application, this is the development machine. I should have that information. Since I'm creating the server, since this is for the lab, I'm gonna name this as a lab, and this is a Linux based machine, or I would like to say lab CentOS, and this is for environment. This is the development machine, lab CentOS development machine. Okay, what this is for, this is for lab, and this is containing CentOS on, and this is just a development machine. Okay, so each and every organization has their own way of naming standard, but the fundamental rule of thumb is whatever you have selected name, that should signify what it does, what application it has, what environment is it running. This is very much important. Okay, so come here, I would like to name it as a lab CentOS 7 dev, because we are going to use this to learn Linux. So I'm going to name it. All right. Now next, how many instances do you want? Whether you want 1 instance, 2 instance, 3 instance, 4 instances with the same properties. For now, I just want 1 image is enough. Fine. Now, which operating system are you planning to use? Okay, Amazon uses a term called as AMI, and few people, particularly in the United States, Western world, they call it a AMIs. Okay, depending on where you work. Okay, so AMI or AMI, both of them are same. AMIs, Amazon Machine Image. Okay, Amazon offers you the operating systems that are installed on a disk already. Okay, and among all, you can also make money by creating your own AMIs or AMIs and publish it in the marketplace. Okay, or you can also release the AMIs for free. Okay, and here if you click at the community AMIs, there are 499 AMIs, okay, images that are offered in the community section. Whatever you see in the community section are 100% free, but whatever you see in the marketplace may or may not be free. So CentOS is free to use. So what I'm gonna do is I'll select the community AMIs tab. 499 tabs are available. Okay. So what I'm gonna do, I would like to search for CentOS. CentOS. So I would like to go with CentOS 7, which is the version 7 of the CentOS. Perfect. Okay. So there are a lot of varieties of CentOS 7s are there, but I just want to stick to something which is which I could see. Okay. What I'm gonna do is any image, just select. Okay, just this is just for the purpose of demonstration. So I say Bittrex VM, it is giving me CentOS 7.9. Okay, I would like to select just any CentOS 7, but in organizations you don't go with random. Okay, you're gonna make your own AMIs. How are you gonna make our AMIs? We'll see that, but I have selected a CentOS 7 image. Perfect. And then what instance type are you going to use? This is another thing that you should know. Okay, so I clearly mentioned, right, how many CPUs you want, how many memories you want, how many GPU, like graphical processing unit or the graphic cards you want, how much disk you want. Okay, typically instance type. So you also need to understand one point. If you're having 100 CPUs and 1 GB of RAM, or if you're having 20 CPUs and 4 GB of RAM, you don't get better performance. In order a computer to get a better performance, for this much amount of CPU, this much amount of memory should CPU should be there. For this much amount of memory, this much amount of CPU should be there. There is some best combination, right? So in order to you figuring out which is the best combination, Amazon has given you all the best possible combinations. Now, if your customer has asked you, I want 20 CPUs and 84 gigs of memory, that type of requirement might not be available here. Then you need to choose something which is close to what is available. Okay, so there are a lot of varieties in that T series. Okay, if you see T2 series, T1 is a first generation hardware, T2 second generation hardware. You can also see T3 third generation hardware. Almost all the organizations prefer going with the T3 or third generation hardware because that is the latest and greatest. You get better performance on latest generation hardware. Okay, so you have T series, which is a general purpose. If your workloads are quite regular workloads, you can go with the T series. And if you look at the T series, if you go with the T1 micro, you get 1 CPU and 0.61 GB of memory. If you go with the T2 nano, you get 1 CPU and half GB of memory. And if you go with the T2 medium, you get 2 CPUs and 4 gigs of memory. And if you look at the T2.x large, you are getting 16 CPUs and 4 gigs of memory. Can you see this? Similarly, if you go with C series, okay, so in interviews you would ask, you might get asked, what all type of instances have you used? We have used a T series for general purpose workloads, and our applications are also compute based workloads. And as per the organization policy, we are also using C series. Okay, so wherever you see C series, that means it is a compute optimized. That means this offers you more CPU. Okay, and if you look at this C3 large, it offers you 8 CPUs and 7 gigs of memory. Okay, and if you look at C4.4x large, it offers you 16 CPUs and 30 gigs of memory. But do I need to learn all this? Do I need to by heart all this? Absolutely no. You don't have to by heart anything. Understand T series that it is a general purpose hardware, and C series it is a compute optimized workloads. But Amazon offers Amazon offers a free tier for me for 1 year, but can I use anything? The answer is 100% no. You cannot use everything. Amazon offers you everything for free conditionally. Okay, that means you need to use something whatever they says. Okay, so likewise you have a lot of varieties are there, and based on that you need to select whatever is needed. For example, if you go to the page number 2 or page number 3, you also have something called as G series, where you are having the graphic card, 16 CPUs and 120 gigs of memory, and it has okay a network throughput performance of up to 10 gigs. Okay, for our training, do I need to go with the most powerful machines? Absolutely no. Okay, you don't have to go through all the complex things. So what you can do is you can go back. Okay, now you can select something which is free tier eligible. wherever you see, whenever you select any instance or whenever you're in the phase of selecting anything, wherever you see the label as free tier eligible, can you see this? So yeah, it's gone. Okay. 1 minute. Let me go through the highlighter. Yeah. Wherever you see. One second, guys. Okay. Okay, wherever you see the free tier eligible, only those things are part of the free tier. Okay, so if Amazon is offering you free tier, that doesn't mean that you can use whatever you want for the 1 year. There are some combinations, and that combination is called as instance type. What type of instances or what instance types are you using? That means someone is asking you what type of instances, how much CPU, how much memory you are using. So when someone says that T2 micro, that means this is a second generation hardware that gives you 1 CPU and 1 gig of memory. Okay, and this is a current generation, true, but there is not a futuristic generation. And on this, what all operating systems are compatible? So Red Hat Enterprise Linux is compatible, SUSE Linux is compatible, Windows is also compatible, and this is the pricing as well. But don't just believe in it. We'll go to the calculator and see. Okay, so it's a very clear indication. Not all instances are free. Only certain instances that are labeled as free tier are eligible. So I would like to select it. So this instance is going to offer me 1 CPU, 1 gig of memory. Perfect. Okay, so what is an instance type? We know the answer. Instance type is nothing but the combination of CPU and memory based on the requirement, and how close are we to the requirement. We're gonna select that. Now I would like to proceed with the key pair, but I didn't generate any sort of key pair. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna generate a key pair. What is a key pair? When I say key pair, I'm referring to the SSH key pair, which is nothing but SSH public key, SSH private key. What is that SSH public key and what is the private key? The same story which we have learned in the beginning of the session. Public key, private key. Public key is not sensitive, private key is sensitive. Does it mean that I can share the public key with anyone? Not really. Only the owners of the application, typically your colleagues, you can share. But private key, can I share? No. Private key is just like your password. You should never ever share. It's like sharing your identity. Anil, does it answer your question?
Yes.
Perfect. All
Thank
right.
you.
Now again, I'll again come back to the same question. So Manu, you said that I can use T3.micro as a part of the free tier. How many hours can I use? Can I use lifelong? Can I use 10 servers? Can I use 20 servers of T2 micro? Can I use 100 servers during my free tier? Again, the answer is no. So they give you this in a very respectful manner with a note that you can learn. Okay, not just you can make money out of it. Okay, AWS free tier. Okay, let me show you that. All right. So what they're saying is if you want to work on compute as a part of the compute, okay, why it's not coming? Yeah. So as a part of the compute, Amazon is offering you, okay, Amazon is offering you 750 hours per month. Again, within the 1 year, every month you can use the EC2 instance for 750 hours. Okay. For whenever you're using Linux, Red Hat or SLES. Okay. So you can either use T2 micro or T3 micro. Okay. As a part of the free tier. Okay, 750 hours per month for Windows T2 micro or T3 micro depending on the region. Okay, that means even if you want to learn Windows, it's free if you use either T2 micro or T3 micro. But if you use T2 micro or T3 micro, it's gonna take ages and the performance won't be much good though. Okay, so yeah, to answer your question, as a part of the free tier, Amazon offers you 750 hours. That means you can create a server and can run it continuously for 750 hours. You won't get billed if it is T2 micro. And in certain regions, T2 micro is deprecated. Only when I say deprecated, you won't see in certain regions, you will only see T3 micro. At the time, T3 micro is free. In our training, we're going to use North Virginia, where T2 micro is free. Okay. So again, whenever this free tier limits or anything comes up, we'll talk about such things. But for now, I would like to go. I would like to select a key pair, but there is no key pair. I would like to create a key pair. This is for my purpose. In your case, you're going to generate your own key pair. Okay. So I'm going to name this as B57. Okay. Try to create names that make sense. Okay. The key pair name is B57. There are two formats, PEM format or PuTTY format. You can use anything. But today I'm gonna target Windows-based users. Okay, so in majority of the companies, okay, Windows is the most commonly used operating system along with Mac. Today I'm gonna talk about PuTTY based, which is a Windows based. Tomorrow I'll also talk about Linux or Linux or Mac based. Okay, so assuming that majority of the users are Windows, so you need to you need to select PPK. Okay, don't change anything. Give a name of your choice, which makes sense, and select the PPK because we are going to install a tool called as PuTTY. Okay, and here PPK stands for PuTTY private key. Now I'm gonna select a key pair, which is going to download me the private key. My public key, my private key is here. Okay, which is downloaded now. Now I'm gonna mention I have a lot of options. Bash 52 key, which I have created way long back. Now in this training, I would like to select the B57. Perfect. What's next? Okay, do not choose anything all the way, all the way, all the way. Okay, all the way down, all the way down, all the way down. Select the disk. Okay, by default, it is giving you 20 GB of disk. Okay, as I mentioned, so whenever you get any requirement, you also need to ask what is the storage expectations from your end. Okay, I clearly mentioned, right? So you also need to ask how much storage that you want. Okay, so based on that, you need to select the storage. Okay, but for now, and as a part of the free tier, okay, you can use a maximum of 30 GB of disk free. Okay, if you consume anything above 30%, 30 GB, then it's going to charge you for the above 30. All right, now I don't do any changes. I don't do any changes. I'll simply click. But if you clear this, if you see this 20 GB right next to it, there is also an option called as GP2, GP3. What these are? Okay, so disk GP2, general purpose second generation, general purpose third generation. In almost all the companies, they always prefer from last 6 months to 1 year. Amazon is highly endorsing you everyone to use only third generation hardware because third generation disks are offering the better performance. And if you're in your organization, if there are already compute machines with the storage of type GP2, they're asking you to migrate. If you want to move the storage from GP2 to GP3, what is the process? We'll see that later. But for now, I'm going to select GP3 because that is the latest generation storage solution. Okay, there are also other solutions as well. Provisioned SSD, IOPS and all. I don't want to talk about this at this point of time. I don't want to create a sense of confusion. Okay, too much of information in a single day is really not great thing to start with. So yeah, what I'm gonna do is I'll just launch the instance. See the time? It's see the time now. It's not it's not gonna be a minute. Let's wait for it. All right. All right. The server is up. What's next? Whenever a server is up, okay, you also need to check a couple of things. Refresh. Okay. Now, can you see this? What is the status? It is initializing. That means the server is still in the phase of booting. Okay, the server is still in the phase of booting. And if you select this in the middle of the screen, there is an option called as, okay, there is an option called as status checks. Okay, so that is also very, very important. You click here status. Okay, you can see system status checks and instance status checks. And if you see the status instance state as running state, it really doesn't mean that you can connect to the server immediately. No. Okay, the instance state is running. That means it is in the phase of running. It might or might not be ready to establish the connections, but this is what you need to check. This should be active, status check should be active, and at the same time it's gonna do two checks: software checks and hardware checks. System status checks and instance status checks, both of them should be active or in the running state. If they are not passed, or if they're failed, or if they're state in the phase of initializing, you cannot establish connection. This is very much important. System status checks and instance status checks. Okay, so whenever if someone reaches you or whenever someone complains to you, hey, this is not working, hey, I'm not able to connect to the server, the very first thing that you need to do ask is, What is the IP address of the server? How are you going to connect? Give me the status, give me the details of the server. So you need to check instance status checks and system status checks. Okay, so how it's, what exactly does it mean is, so Amazon is going to have a lot of big servers, right? And based on your request, Amazon is going to provide you a small virtual machine as per your requirement. This is a big server with 32 CPUs and 128 GB of RAM. Okay, not everyone would be needing that much big machines, right? What Amazon does, as per your requirement, Amazon is going to create a small virtual machine, as you mentioned. That is vCPU, virtual CPU, and 1 GB of RAM. Okay, so likewise, lot of customers would be running lot of servers on the top of the same machine as well. Okay, so yeah, this is Flipkart's machine. You can also see this is Snapdeal's machine. I'm using different colors to indicate they are different. Okay, you can also see that. Okay, different customer workloads can also operate in different machines or on the same machines. But Amazon promises you, but this customer cannot see the workloads of this customer, and this customer cannot see the workloads of this customer, and vice versa. But there are certain companies like banks. Okay, there are certain data complaints companies. Okay, as per their organization policies, they cannot run their servers on the top of the shared hardware, and this model is called as a shared hardware model. Okay, in this model, majority of the companies go with this model only. But if you are having any specific requirements where you cannot run your applications or your servers on a hardware where other applications are running, okay, then in that case, what you also going to do is, okay, there is also, this is a shared hardware model, and there is also another type of machines called as a dedicated hardware. It's also called as a dedicated hardware, dedicated host. Okay, so dedicated host. Okay, so where you can say, I would like to create my infrastructure in the host where other servers should not be hosted. Okay, then in that case, we're gonna go with the dedicated host. Very few people will go with this. Okay, but here, whatever the workloads that you are going to create, everything would be of yours. Okay, you don't see other customer workloads. And this type of model, this is called as a tenancy. Okay, so shared tenant model or a single tenant model. All right, guys, clear? Perfect. But in training, we are not gonna go with a dedicated host because it's a very costly. Okay, but you really don't feel any difference whether the server is running on the shared hardware or dedicated hardware. All right, guys. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'll come here. I'll try to do a refresh. You can see both of them are in the running state. All right, so, and you can also see the status is in the running state, and status checks 2 by 2 are passed. Okay, so the reason why I talked about it is, so system status checks, instance status check is like a software checks, like your virtual machine checks, VM checks. Okay, so whatever the server that you have created, it's referred as a virtual machine, okay, or virtual instance. Okay, so don't call that as a server, call it as a virtual machine or a virtual instance or an instance. Okay, in system statuses, like okay, system checks of the hardware. Okay, so wherever your server is running underneath hardware, what is the status of it, whether it's good, whether it is having any issues or not. So for a system to operate, ensure that both of the checks are in the running state. All right, now I have my server running. Fine, now I would like to connect. How can I connect? That is another interesting thing. I am having my computer on my computer. Okay, on my computer. So what you need to do is you need to install. You need to install a client. So Putty is one of the most famous client. Okay, it's been there from almost 20, 25 years. Okay, I don't say 25, 20, 25 years. Okay, this is a software that we use to establish connection servers. Okay, let me try to get that. All right, so what I'm gonna do is, okay, I would like to install Putty. All you need to do is just Putty for Windows. Come here and just say, okay, whatever you see in the first, just click it. It is not really installable. It's just plug and play. It will be very quick. You can go with MSI, stands for Microsoft Installer. Just come and click on it. Okay, but you have ARM-based hardware, 32-bit hardware. I know most of the people use a 64-bit. It is a CPU architecture model. Just select this and then just install it. Next, 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 next. It's installing. Just say yes and finish. That's it. Your putty is installed. Okay, and if you wanna check whether your putty is installed or not, just type your Windows key and type putty, and that's it. You have it. Okay, copy this to your putty. Okay, why did it open? Okay, click on the putty app. Okay. This is what it is. All right, what is a port? Each and every service will operate on one specific port. We'll talk about that when the networking comes, but don't touch that. As I mentioned, if you want to connect to any server, you need to know the IP address of it. Okay, it's just like an identity communication protocol. So what I'm going to do is select the instance in the detail section. Please copy only the public IPv4 address if you are accessing it from the internet. Okay, like us. In organizations, you use private IP. In organizations, you won't see any instances having public IP. Okay, the reason why is okay, public IPs use communication over internet, but in reality, in your organizations, you don't use public IP because you're not going to expose directly to the internet. You use VPN, virtual private network. All right, so please copy the public IP and then you need to paste it here. That's it. Then what's next? In the left side, there is an option if you notice, okay, you need to supply the key. Okay, select the plus icon and then again you see auth. Click the auth plus symbol, credentials. Then you need to supply the private key for authentication. All right, browse. So where did I download? I have downloaded it here, which is available in my downloads, right? Select this, open. That's it. All you need to do is just click this. Now it asks you, hey, you're trying to connect to this server for the very first time. Are you sure that you want to connect? Yes, I want to connect. This is called as registering the footprint. Whenever you connect to any server for the very first time, your system is warning you. I don't know. I never know. I never connected to the system. And it is a security issue if you are connecting to the first time. Are you sure that you wish to connect? It's called as registering the footprint. Just say yes. Now you need to enter the username. So the AMI that we are using is CentOS, right? The default, okay, you ask what is the default user account in CentOS 7 AWS AMI. I know the answer is CentOS, but I want to make sure. So starting with CentOS 7, we now include, okay, so the default user account on CentOS is CentOS, okay? So come here and try to enter CentOS. That's it. You don't have to enter the, okay. The server refused our key. I think this is a password based. We selected a wrong instance. Okay, I'll launch one more instance. That AMI is designed. Okay, that AMI is designed for password based, but I'm gonna go with lab enter 7 Linux. Sorry about that. Go with CentOS. AMIs can be, majority of the AMIs works with username and password. Okay, but unfortunately I have selected an AMI that works with use password, which I didn't realize. So I'm quickly selecting one more instance. Okay. I don't know. Just select this. And then key pair. Since we have already generated the key pair, I'll just select the same one. You can use the same key pair for hundreds of missions. Okay, no big deal. All I do is launch an instance. The instance that you are launching will be having the B57 as a key. Let's wait for it. All right. So the server is not at up. Let's wait for it. Still loading. Vedant, would you like to speak?
Yeah, would we stop the previous one because we have 750 hours only?
Well, yeah, we'll stop that. But I would like to explain you what is an instance state, all these things. That's the reason I refrained doing it. I think I didn't save it. Okay. Lab CentOS 7 dev server or QA server. Just select something, CentOS. Okay, just select this US Western image for CentOS 7. Anything. Okay. Ensure you select the key pair. And again, once you select the key pair, you cannot change it. Okay, I have selected as B57. Once the server is created, if I want to change it, you cannot change it. But okay, so yeah, save it and launch the instance. And I've selected it as B57. That's it. Launch the instance. It should be quick. Guys, I'll also explain you how to shut down, how to save money as a part of the billing. Okay, just select the instance. All right, and the server is in the pending state. And okay, before it comes up, if you want to see, okay, so usually in intros they'll ask you if you want to see the logs of the machine. For example, you have restarted the server and the server is taking a lot of time to come up, or the server is in the pending state for a very lot of time. What do you know? How do you know what are the logs? How do you know what's happening within the server? Okay, in the backend. Okay, so if you want to know that, select the server of your choice. And in the actions, there is an option called as a monitor and troubleshoot. Select this. You have an option called as a get the system log. Just click this. It's gonna give you what's happening in the background. It's still in the phase of coming up. Okay, it's not scheduled. That means Amazon has not allocated you the needed resources yet. Okay, so yeah, I think it just came up. Yeah, but it is still in the phase of running. It's still in the phase of initializing. Let's wait for it. And if you see the status checks, and both of them are in the phase of initializing. And if you take a clock, okay, if you take a look at the time, it's just taking less than 1 minute. How and why? Okay, I'll answer that. But before that, let's try to connect to the server. And both of the checks are running. They are not yet in the phase of running. Let's wait. I should see the status as running. Then only I can get that. Let's come to the operational state. Can see the status as initializing. Let's see whether we can connect or not. But ideally you need to wait, but I would like to give it a try. Okay, done. And this one, select the key, credentials, browse, B57, click on it, and it says accept, just say CentOS, and boom, you are connected. Okay, uptime. Uptime is a command in Linux which tells you since when the machine is up. You can see that the machine is up from 2 minutes. Here, if you notice, this is how we connect to the server using the passwordless authentication. All right, but are we going to run the server round the clock? The answer is 100% no. Whenever you want to stop the server, select the server. In the middle of the screen, there is an option called as instance state. You can select the stop instance. Stop the instance is like shut down the instance or shut down the server. Okay. So if I shut down the server, Amazon is going to still detect the credits that it is offered. You need to understand one point. Okay. You have created a server, which is a part of the free tier T2 micro. Okay. And it is having 100 GB, it is having 20 GB disk attached. So it's also falling under the category of free tier. Now, Amazon will start detecting the credits if the machine is up. You have started the server. Okay, since the time you start the server to end the server, Amazon will detect the, Amazon will detect the credits that you have. So whenever you don't use, you try to shut down. But how about the underlying disk? You will still be detected. You'll still be considered for the disk. For example, if you have created one more server with the same T2 micro, okay, and if it is also having 20 GB of disk attached, okay, so if you have shut down both the machines, for the CPU and the memory, you won't be charged. Okay, remember this point. For the CPU and the memory, you're not going to be charged, but Amazon offers you the disk only for the 30 GB, but 20 plus 20, 40 GB. So Amazon will start charging you for the 10 GB of disk, but don't worry, it's going to be very less. Okay, and also we are going to use an AMI, okay, Amazon machine image, which will be very less in size. I am gonna come up with a AMI which is less than 8 GB. Now, coming back to you, the same question. How can you install, how can you create and install an OS in just less than 2 minutes? How? Okay, so fundamentally, Amazon is not really installing an operating system. That is a fact. Okay, so what Amazon does is, let me explain that. Okay, what Amazon does in the backend is, okay, so for example, whenever you are creating any instance, right? So for example, if you say I have a T3 micro, okay, so you are selecting an AMI, right? Fundamentally, AMI is a disk. Amazon machine image is a disk. Okay, AMI. This is a regular disk with pre-installed operating system. Okay, so fundamentally, you're not really installing any operating system. You are getting a disk that has already operating system installed. And that's the reason things are really quick. Amazon is using automation to make sure these disks are readily available. So that's the reason you can get things. All you're doing is you're provisioning a machine with the needed resource, and that machine is getting attached to the underlying hardware. That's it. That's the reason why you can see things in a very quick manner. All right, guys, that's it. And again, just an update, and there won't be any changes in the meeting link. Meeting link remains the same. Okay, an announcement, meeting link remains same. And there won't be any changes in the schedule. Session will start by tomorrow. Session will start at 6 a.m. as usual, IST or 7:30 Eastern. All right, and yeah, that's it. That's for today. And if you have any questions, you can stay on. If not, we are good. Okay, I would like to stop the recording and take up the questions. Okay, over to you guys.